This episode of Chilling Tales for Dark Nights is brought to you by Fume. Newsflash: the flavored air option is quickly becoming the favorite alternative to vaping and smoking. And leading the way in this category are our good friends at Fume. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device designed to be the perfect alternative to that lousy habit of yours. No vapor, no electronics, no chemicals, just natural, delicious flavors. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code CHILLING to get a free gift with your journey pack. Head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use code CHILLING to get a free gift with your order today.
Chilling Tales for Dark Nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications.
It's time to turn off the lights and turn on the dark.
Chilling Tales for Dark Nights.
Good evening, listener. You're listening to Chilling Tales for Dark Nights. On tonight's edition, we invite you to leave behind your safe reality and descend with us into the frightening depths of the most terrifying imaginations with an audio adaptation of frightening fiction about inceptive installments. Our tale this evening is written by Marty Martin and performed by Paul J. McSorley. In it, we go back to the farm for another installment of the Marty Martin series. Now, without further ado, I present to you Farmerville, the journalist and the accountant's wife. Farmerville episodes are not for the prudish or faint of heart and are suggested for readers and listeners 18 years of age and older. Episodes contain sensitive subject matter and elements that make references to alcohol and drug consumption, brutality, crude language, death, domestic abuse, flashbacks, haunting, kidnapping, mental illness, murder, nudity, racism, religion, sexual assault, sexual situations, suicide, supernatural, trauma, and violence. Our narrator. So far in our story, it has only been 3 days since the discovery of the serial killers and 200 murders that has drawn unwanted attention to Farmerville. Evil and misdirection has raised its head, causing bad feelings and memories. The supposed witch doctor continues to make ominous predictions, and the journalist and accountant's wife are much more than their innocent appearance. Pay attention. Things are happening, and happening fast. Holcomb's 1.0. Across town, Jenny Johnson sat at a table in her hotel room. A journalist for a mid-level national news service, she had been in town since Friday afternoon. She searched her laptop for information on Farmerville and the Holcombs. She reviewed photos and videos she had taken of the Holcombs farm. Sheriff Ken Farmer, Deputy Ron Farmer, other deputies, FBI agent Phillips, and a few of his agents. She also had photos and video of Ron, Kelly, and Laura at the karate test. Jenny reviewed the information she had gathered so far. I've got to get some more location shots. Maybe somebody will finally start talking to me. If not, I'll find something. Back at the sheriff's office, Ron, Ken, Billy, and Phillips were walking out of Ken's office when the receptionist got Ken's attention. "Sheriff Farmer, the couple over there is waiting to see you if you have a minute." "Thank you, Rhonda." Ron looked at the bench where an older couple, probably in their 60s, sat. As Ken introduced himself to the couple, Rose Carolina, an older woman, jokingly referred to as the native witch doctor, caught Ron's eye through the window. She smiled with an ominous blankness that unsettled Ron. "I'm Sheriff Farmer. How can I help you?" Ron shifted his attention back toward the couple as they stood. "We were wondering when we could get access to the Holcomb farm," the man asked with a northeastern accent. "We were just out there, and the police won't let us in, and it's crawling with reporters, too." "And who are you?" "Oh, we're Mr. and Mrs. Holcomb, Dwayne Sr., and my wife, Marilyn." "What the fuck?" Ron kept his composure as Ken engaged the Holcombs. Ron studied them as he remembered what Dwayne had told him about his father killing people. "You're Dwayne Holcomb's parents? Mr. Holcomb, would you mind showing me some identification? No offense intended, but we've had a lot of crazies come in here saying things," Ken asked. "No offense at all, Sheriff. Can't be too careful these days." Ron took out his cell phone as he continued to watch the exchange. Ron sent a text message to Phillips, who was also watching Ken interact with the couple. "Don't say anything to them. I need to talk to you in private." Phillips looked at Ron, and his expression told Ron he understood something was up. "Hey, Ron, can I see you a minute?" "Sure." When Phillips headed back into Ken's office, Ron followed and closed the door behind them. "Ron? Sorry, I just can't believe this. Dwayne's dad? Dwayne told me he got into killing people with his dad, who had been doing it for years. I was floored when I saw them sitting there. I told you they videoed everything. Well, he was out there 2 weeks ago. Unbelievable. Anyway, we've got a lot going on, search warrants in the works, and we just gotta put the brakes on with them until we get everything lined up." Phillips thought for a moment and then opened the door and headed out with Ron following. "Sorry to interrupt, Sheriff. Mr. and Mrs. Holcomb, I just got off the phone with some of my people and looks like we may be able to finish up within the next day or two, so if you give us your contact info and where you're staying, we can contact you when it's okay for you to get in out there," Phillips told them convincingly. Ron looked on as Phillips and Ken engaged the couple in a brief conversation about the town, places they could eat, and the hotel they were staying at. As soon as the couple left, Phillips updated Ken and got on the phone. Ron heard him making inquiries to expedite search warrants for the couple's home in New Jersey, arrest warrants, and to get a surveillance team to keep an eye on them. Shortly after the couple left, Ron wanted to find Rose. He walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped outside. "Shit!" Ron yelled out as he was startled by a black cat that dashed in front of him. Billy was walking toward the door and had seen it too. "You're not superstitious, are you, Ron?" "No." "Well, I am. Black cat? That's not good," Billy said as he laughed. No sign of Rose. Almost an hour went by as Ron kept busy. He thought it might be a good idea while waiting on a surveillance team for one of them to keep an eye on the old couple. He went into the conference room to talk to Phillips. "It's probably a few hours before your team can get here, but do you want me or someone to head over and keep an eye on them?" "Appreciate the suggestion, Ron, and you're right. But they gave me their phone number and I've got Susan over here tracking their phones, so we are tracking them." "Good. I don't mean to be negative about GPS, but I've seen it before back when I was doing target acquisitions. Sometimes phones would be dropped on purpose, and if we didn't have an eye in the sky, we would lose them." "Special Agent Phillips, we just got that background info you were wanting on that Holcomb guy. You need to see this," Agent Susan Shaw said, which got Phillips and Ron's attention. They both hurried over to look at what she had found. "Damn it!" Let's see, get somebody over to that hotel to watch them. This guy's a retired Jersey cop, an angry Phillips said. Ron verified the location of the couple with Shaw as he walked out and got on the radio to check if any units were near the hotel. When Ron arrived, 2 other deputies were already in the parking lot. The Holcombs' car was still there. Ron contacted Phillips and he told Ron to go ahead and arrest the Holcombs. Ron got the key for the room from the front desk, and then he and the 2 deputies went through the routine of knocking on the door and announcing themselves. The request to open the door was not answered, and they used the room key to enter the room. "Damn it," one of the deputies said as they entered the room. Mrs. Holcomb was lying on the bed, a pool of blood around her head. Dwayne Sr. was not in the room. Jenny Johnson, 15 minutes earlier. Johnson got up from the table in her hotel room and decided she would try again to get an interview with the sheriff. She drove to the sheriff's station, and as she was getting out of her car, she saw Ron run out of the station and jump into his cruiser and take off. Something's happening. Johnson followed Ron, thinking maybe there was a story. At the hotel, she parked and watched, being sure to stay a good distance away so she wouldn't be noticed. She took video of the action as Ron and 2 other deputies entered the hotel room. Within seconds of entering the room, one of the deputies came outside looking upset. Johnson did some thinking, stayed inside her car, and called the sheriff's station to try to ask the sheriff what was going on. "Hello, this is Sheriff Farmer. How can I help you?" "Yes, Sheriff. My name is Jenny Johnson. I'm a journalist out here at the hotel where several of your deputies and an ambulance are. I was wondering if I could get a little information on what was happening." "Hold on, Miss Johnson. Give me a minute and I'll get back to you." She was on hold for about 2 minutes and hoped that the sheriff would get back to her and not hang up. "Miss Johnson, you still there?" "Yes, sir." "Miss Johnson, I've got one better for you. I'm going to hand you off to Special Agent Phillips of the FBI." Oh my God, the FBI! Johnson was ecstatic. The FBI had to mean there was something big going on. "Miss Johnson, Special Agent in Charge, Phillips here. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, under one condition. You can have the scoop on this story, providing you don't release it until I give you the go-ahead. Understood?" "Thank you, sir. Thank you." "All right, get yourself over here to the sheriff's station." Johnson was as giddy as a schoolgirl, feeling this could be something really big, the scoop of her life, although she wasn't sure what the story was yet. This has to be something big. She soon met Phillips and Ken in Ken's office and was updated on what had happened at the hotel and its relationship to the murders at the farm. After the 5-minute conversation with Phillips, she was eager to leave and get to the story. A few hours later, Ron got back to the sheriff's station. "Hey, Ron, while you were at the hotel, we had a reporter call us from out there, and I had her come over here to meet with us. Did you see her? Young black girl, blue SUV?" Ken asked. "Nah, didn't notice." "We figured we'd fill her in with what had happened out at the farm and the relationship with the parents. Gives us control of the narrative and probably makes her happy since she's been snooping around for days," Phillips told Ron. "What's her name?" "Jenny Johnson." "Okay." Phillips added, "We already got the request in for the 888 surveillance warrant on her, just in case." An hour later, Phelps announced that Holcomb had been caught heading east in the rental car he had rented near the hotel. "With him in custody, we don't have to waste time looking for him and can focus on clearing everything up at the farm. And those damn videos," Phillips said. Phillips then called Johnson, gave her an update, and gave her the go-ahead to put the story out. A few minutes later, Ken came out of his office to talk to Ron. "I know it couldn't be helped with this afternoon, missing the appointment with Dr. Fitz, but he'll see you tomorrow and make sure you make it," Ken said, implying that Ron would find an excuse not to go. "I'll go," Ron said, not very convincingly. "Ron, it's already been, 4 days? You know we all have to go to a counselor, a shrink, or whatever you want to call it when there's a shooting, especially after the shit you went through. Christ almighty, Ron. The rest of the day was slow for Ron. He went home and had dinner with Kelly. Laura and Danny joined them. "Ron, baby, Ron," Kelly said while she softly shook Ron's shoulder, waking him up later that night. What is it?" "You're having another one of your dreams, yelling at Mark." "Sorry." "Don't be silly. You're still going to see Doc Fitz tomorrow." "Yeah, seeing him at 10. The appointments. Tuesday morning. What's this guy saying? I'm not even listening. I don't want to be here. What's he saying? Same thing every time. How did that make you feel? Really? How does it make me feel? I'm sorry, Doc. I'm not keeping up with you. I had some of those dreams again last night. I could say, how does that make you feel, but I'm afraid you'd probably kick my ass, Fitz said with a smile, generating some levity in the session. You must be a mind reader, Doc. That's my job. Get in there and mess around with your head. The session continued for about 10 minutes until Fitz changed the subject. I know we're here to talk about you and everything, but I'm concerned about Laura. How is she handling what happened? I don't know. I think she's okay, but then again, she's not, and she finds it difficult to share. And I guess she holds things back. Oh, she's like her dad. I guess she is. I would have never imagined the situation we were in on Friday, where she did what she did. I know it had to be overwhelming for her. At the barn, when everybody showed up, we knew. Billy, Keisha, Tom, we could see it on her. She was hyped. Too hyped. That's understandable, Ron, given what she had been through. She may be mature, but she's still only 17. I guess. She seems okay, but she's been spending a lot of time with her new boyfriend, which just started Friday night. The good thing is, he's a good kid. Don't know if you know him. Danny Spencer. He's a good kid. So you think she's handling it? I think she is in her own way. I know girls are more mature than boys, but she is very mature for her age. It's kind of scary how well she's handling it. You're the psychiatrist. Should she be seeing you or somebody to talk about this? Definitely. If she's willing to, she really needs to talk about it. I just feel guilty about what happened. She never should have been there. I'm trying not to think about it, but the thought that we could have lost her, it kills me. And being guilty about losing Anna. Stop. Again, that was not your fault. You cannot control the uncontrollable. We think we can. We think we could have made a difference in things that happen in life, but reality is we can't. And you know that. We talked about this. Yeah, but that's where we disagree, Doc. I was deployed, and I know we get deployed, but, and this is something I've never even told Kelly. Before we deployed, we were given an option to skip a rotation because of training opportunities for us and another team. We opted in. We said yes to going back to Afghanistan. That's not normal, Doc. We should have said no. If we had turned down that rotation, Anna would still be here. See what you just said? What? You said we. We should have said no. It wasn't you. It was all of you. Your team. All of you decided together to take the rotation, and if I remember right, it meant you'd be back on the bottom of the rotation schedule, which means you'd be back home for at least 18 months to 2 years. So, there was a good reason for doing it. But you can't blame everybody. You can't blame yourself for what might have happened with Laura either. You're a good dude, Ron, and a great dad. You can't keep blaming yourself. The session went on for 20 minutes. Ron felt good about the session, and the doctor gave him a change to his meds that he hoped would help. Ron picked up his new meds and went back to work. Wednesday, after school. At home, Kelly got off the phone and texted Ron. Made an appointment for Laura to see Doc Fitz tomorrow after school. Does she know yet? No. Good luck. Laughing emoji. An hour later, Kelly was in the kitchen when she heard Laura come in with Danny. Laura, can you come here for a minute? Laura and Danny went to the kitchen. Hey, Danny, can I talk to Laura alone for a second? Sure, Danny answered and left the kitchen. Laura made a stern face at Kelly. What, Mom? Don't get mad, but we've made an appointment for you to see a counselor. Mom, why? You need to talk to somebody about what happened. I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm good. I've already seen the counselor they had at school the last 2 days. True, but that was dealing with something totally different than what you had happen to you. And we've had this conversation before about Dad, remember? And he finally agreed and it helped. And it still helps him. Yeah, but tell you what, go a couple of times, and if it helps, it helps. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, okay? All right, Laura answered as she left the kitchen. Kelly started to follow her, but stopped when she heard Danny talking to her. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to listen. You guys are loud, but your mom's right. You too? No, it worked for me. It helped me. You've been to a counselor? What for? Stuff with my dad. Your dad? Yeah, my dad. I'll tell you about it later, but you need to go to that appointment. Laura's appointment. What's he saying? I'm not really listening and I don't want to be here. What's he saying? Same thing they all say every time. How did that make you feel? Really? Hey, Laura, Dr. Fitz said, trying to get her attention. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to be here. I've been doing this for a long time, so I know when someone really wants to be here or not. We're just getting started, and what we say here stays here. You see my dad too, don't you? I couldn't tell you, just like I can't tell anybody if I'm seeing you. I see that look you're giving me, and you already know the answer, but we don't talk about somebody else in here. Some people have problems dealing with traumatic events. Some people handle them just fine. So what we're going to do is just see which one of those people you are. Sound like a plan? Okay. So, how does that make you feel? Is he serious? Again, I see that look you're giving me, but that's my attempt at bad humor. That's one thing I say to almost everyone because asking that question relieves the tension, especially if I can get a smile out of you. Laura smiled and became more cooperative. The rest of the session lasted 40 minutes. Laura left and went to her car where Danny was waiting. How'd it go? Danny asked. Good. It was good. Better than I thought it would be. You going back? Yes, I go back next week to see him. Danny gave her an unexpected big hug and said, Thank you. For what? Laura asked teary-eyed. For taking care of yourself. The Journalist, Jenny Johnson, Friday afternoon. Jenny was still riding the high from her Monday scoop and it being picked up by the major outlets. Since then, she was encouraged to find out more to follow up. As she drove through the outskirts of town, she came across an industrial area named Valkyrie Industrial Park on Valkyrie Drive. She thought it odd that she couldn't find the park or street on any maps or internet searches. Jenny pulled off the road onto a gravel parking lot across from the fenced-in industrial area. There were no cars in the parking lot except for an old Toyota a few hundred yards away. She got out of her car and looked across the street at the large warehouse area and noticed a warning sign. No photography, no video, and another sign at the end of one of the warehouses. Sheriff Department Substation. There were about a dozen Sheriff's Department vehicles and unmarked vans parked outside the substation, which sparked her curiosity. Jenny started taking pictures on her cell phone. Laura, 30 minutes earlier. Over the past week, Laura and Danny's affection for each other grew quickly, and being the infatuated teenagers they were, there was one activity they engaged in when they were alone. After school, they would go for a ride and go parking. Laura's friend Becky asked if she could hang out with them after school. Laura and Danny reluctantly agreed. Laura drove out to the Valkyrie Industrial Park complex. She pulled off the right side of the road onto the gravel parking lot across from the fenced-in warehouse area. Laura backed the car in facing the road, turned the car off, and placed her hand on Danny's lap. Becky was busy texting in the back seat. Danny was surprised and acted like his nervous self. "Too bad we're not alone," Danny said quietly. Becky heard his comment. "Hey, Laura, if you want to, go ahead," Becky told Laura with an approving nod and smile, and went back to her texting. Danny whispered to Laura as she smiled at Danny and started to unzip his pants. What are you doing?" "You want me to stop?" Laura whispered in his ear. Danny didn't want her to stop. A few minutes went by. "Hey, Laura, so what's with those police cars at that building?" "Becky, really? You said you were gonna..." I'm sorry, you're right." "Yeah, that's the police substation. There might be somebody in there, but that's where they keep a lot of their stuff." "I never knew that was out here." "Hey, Danny, I'm sorry," Becky said in a sarcastic manner. "It's okay," Danny said with a sigh. "It's not okay. Both of you shut up," Laura yelled. "All right," Becky and Danny answered together and laughed as Laura returned her attention to Danny. About 5 minutes passed before Becky interrupted again. "Hey, Laura?" "Becky, really?" Laura popped up, glaring at Becky. No, I'm sorry, but there's a woman over there taking pictures." Becky motioned toward the car that was parked in front of the entrance to the substation. Laura studied the blue SUV parked a few hundred yards away. "It's okay. Can we keep going? She can't see anything," Danny anxiously asked as Laura grabbed her phone. "What are you doing?" "Calling my dad." "What? Why?" "Don't worry, just shut up. You too, Becky," she said as she dialed her dad while keeping her other hand busy on Danny. His reaction almost made her laugh when her dad answered the phone. It also got a chuckle out of Becky, which prompted a glare from Laura. "Hey, Dad, there's a woman out here at the substation taking pictures." "What are you doing out there?" "Dad, there's a woman taking pictures of the place." "What's she look like?" 5'10", black woman, nicely dressed. She's wearing black dress pants and a red jacket, standing in front of a blue SUV. "Okay, just stay there. I'm on my way." Sounds like that reporter. Ron walked out of the sheriff's station and made a quick call as he got in his cruiser. It took 10 minutes to get to the industrial park. As he approached the parking lot, he observed the woman standing in front of her SUV. He drove by slowly and looked out the passenger window at her and made a point to smile. "Yeah, that's her." "You okay?" "I'm fine. You got nothing better to do?" Jenny pointedly answered. "I do now," Ron answered politely as he backed his cruiser up a few feet to reposition it and turned on the emergency lights. Ron got out of the car, keeping an eye on the woman as he approached. He glanced to see if Laura was still there and noticed that Danny was with her. Those kids. Ron was a little distressed about Laura, thinking he knew what they were doing, but the dad part of him didn't want to think about it. "Hello, I'm Deputy Farmer, and may I ask your name?" "Jenny Johnson." "You're right, I do have better stuff I could be doing, but the reason I stopped was you looked like you might have car trouble or something, and it's a little suspicious sitting in front of an Army Reserve armory and police substation out in the middle of nowhere." "Suspicious? Suspicious? Isn't it suspicious to have a police station out in the middle of nowhere? Or is there some other reason why you stopped?" Ron paused for a moment as he noticed the approach of another sheriff's vehicle. He took a few steps backward. "Okay, let's start over." "Oh yeah, I bet you'd like that." Just then, the other sheriff's vehicle pulled up and stopped right in front of Johnson. Deputy Keisha Jones stepped out of her vehicle, projecting a stern look toward Johnson. Good timing, Keisha.
Why's that, Ron?
Well, we were about to take a break. I stopped to ask what she was doing out here, and well, the answer I got seemed to imply the only reason I was asking because she was black.
That's a fucking lie. You better holster that mouth right now,
Keisha commanded. Johnson looked shocked, even confused.
Ron, is it on?
Keisha asked, motioning towards his dash cam. Always.
Take a break, young lady, and look over there at Deputy Farmer's camera on the dash. You looking? Now, look here, look at my chest. See this button? Cameras. So, what we can do is I'll call our boss out here. We'll look at his dash cam and see what happened. Would that work for you?
Johnson hesitated, and Ron watched her attitude changing while Keisha continued to talk.
Let me ask you a question. What are you doing out here?
I was just taking a break. I have some things going on. My girlfriend's a bitch. That's one of them, she answered sheepishly.
Really? Let me see if I understand. White cop asked you a question, you think it's because you're black, but if the only sister cop in the county shows up to ask you a question, it's not because you're black. Is that it?
That's not it.
Ron, you know who this is. Jenny Johnson, a professional journalist. She's probably doing one of those stories about you white cops discriminating against black folk in our little hillbilly hick town here.
That's not what I'm doing.
Come on, you can't believe that. I believe you if you tell me what you're doing here. Is your car broke down?
No, I'm not broke down.
Are you a pervert?
What?
Are you a pervert? A simple question. No. Maybe you are because you see that car over there with those kids in it. I mean, those kids could be doing all sorts of stuff in that car.
Ron saw Keisha's glance at him with the knowing look that she knew it was his kid in the car. Ron tried his best not to smile.
Come on, Miss Johnson. We're all grown-ups here. We know what those kids are doing in that car, don't we, Ron?
Unfortunately, Keisha, we do, Ron reluctantly answered, knowing that Keisha was taking advantage of the situation to tease him about his daughter.
We all were kids at one time, Johnson said, attempting to join in the conversation. So you are a pervert? No.
Ron and Keisha noticed another deputy's cruiser approaching, and as it got close, Keisha said,
Hey, Ron, is that Tom?
Yes, it is, Ron answered as Tom pulled up and stopped.
Look at this, Miss Johnson, another black cop, Deputy Tom Holt.
Tom lowered his car window and gave the group an inquisitive look.
Tell me something, Deputy Holt. If you saw someone out here taking pictures of that building over there, what would you think?
Keisha continued. I'd be wondering if she was a spy or something, being that's a federal facility and the sheriff's facility, and what with the million signs out there saying don't take pictures.
Thank you, Tom. See, Miss Johnson, nothing black and white about this except for the writing on the signs,
Keisha sternly told Johnson as Tom drove away.
So why don't you just answer the question and tell us what you're doing here?
Jenny nervously shifted on her feet.
Forget it. I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you why Deputy Farmer stopped to ask you what you're doing. The same reason I'm asking what you're doing here. Do you work in the Sheriff's Department substation? No. Are you in the Army Reserve and working in that Army Reserve facility? No, you're not. Do you work for that shipping company at the other end down there? No. Look behind you. See that sign behind your car up against the tree line and about every 20 feet or so, all the way down to the far end of this parking lot past where those kids are doing sex stuff in that car? You don't need to answer that. That sign says, reserved for authorized vehicles only. Violators will be towed. This is an auxiliary parking lot, a staging area for things like tornadoes and other emergencies, and if you look across the street, you'll see those signs on the fence over there. It says, Federal Facility, no trespassing, no pictures or video.
The angry deputy yelled. Deputy Jones, should we impound her car or let her go so she can write her story?
Damn it, Ron, two options. Why you ask me that?
Keisha acted angry and looked at Johnson.
No matter what answer I go with, I'm wrong, right, Miss Johnson? No. So if I say yes, impound the car, you're okay with that? Or keep your car and go about your business writing your story? You're okay with that too? Don't answer that because the answer to both questions is I agreed with the white cop, and what does that make me? Miss Johnson, what does that make me? Ron watched as Johnson got upset and didn't know how to answer Keisha. Go ahead and get out of here, Miss Johnson, but I'll be watching you. Go on, get out of here. Johnson got back in her car and drove off as Ron shook his head at Keisha. Did you have fun? Yeah, I had fun, but not as much as they were having, Keisha answered as she looked over at Laura's car. You're not right. Something's off with you, Keisha, Ron said as he laughed along with her. I know, but seriously, Ron, you know that Johnson girl. She's doing a story, and it's not about black and white in Missouri. Yeah, I know. They started to get back into their cars. Hey, look, Ron, I think there's 3 of them. I guess Laura and her boyfriend weren't doing anything, which should make you happy, right? Yeah, it does. But they could be, having a menage a trois, a threesome. Keisha said, laughing at Ron. Keisha, blah, 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 Ron yelled out as he pretended to not hear what she had said. As Ron and Keisha started to drive off, Ron looked over to see that Laura was also leaving. 5 minutes later, Deputy Jones made a traffic stop and pulled over Jenny Johnson. She got out of her cruiser and approached Johnson's vehicle. Miss Johnson, do you know why I pulled you over? Oh, because you're a crazy bitch? She snapped before they both burst into laugh. Why'd you treat me like that? You're mean. You didn't leave me much choice, and why didn't you just answer Ron's question? And why the hell did you pull the race card with him? Because Keisha didn't let her answer. Jenny gave a knowing smile. Don't even go there. You know you did. You know nothing about this town, and that's one thing we don't have a problem with here. This is my home, and you get to know this place a little more, you'll learn that. You got a lot of homework to do if you're doing a story about anything here. I've known you, a few months, and I know enough about you except for what you were doing out there taking pictures. It's like I told you before. I'm having girlfriend problems, she answered with a seductive smile. That Deputy Tom looks pretty good. Is he available? Stop it, seriously, you've got to be more careful. That's a federal army facility with signs all over the place warning you about pictures. That's federal, which means you can get locked up. Homeland Security, FBI be snatching your ass. I just was driving and found that place and thought it'd be interesting. I'm trying to find something for a follow-up. The only reason I was here last week was because I was with you. My editor wants me to come up with something more since I was here. Gotta try and find something. Babe, you're famous right now, at least for a minute, and there's not much here. You saw that before that shit happened last week. That's the biggest news that's happened here in forever. Sorry, but that industrial park, even that road's not on a map. Isn't that strange? It's a podunk town. There's a lot of things not on the map. I know you grew up in St. Louis, but people can change, and just because where you grew up was bad doesn't mean it's bad everywhere. Girl, you gotta stop overthinking things. You need to get laid or something. Maybe tonight? Depends. We still on? Jenny smiled assent. Keisha leaned in for a kiss and then headed back to her cruiser. Bad feelings. Sunday morning. Ron and Kelly's Sunday morning routine was in motion. Mass? Ron asked. Sure, babe. Hey, Laura, you want to go to Mass with us? Kelly yelled out. Give me a few minutes, Laura answered. They arrived at the church, headed inside as usual, and Ron stopped to talk with Father O'Malley. Ron and O'Malley had their customary greetings, but Ron thought there was something off with O'Malley. When do you go back to work? O'Malley asked. This afternoon. Why? Got something I need to talk to you about? What is it? I can meet you tomorrow, maybe later today if you're out, but I heard something last night in the confession. You sure can wait? It can wait. It's not life and death. Joey, I can always tell when you got something you need to tell me. I don't always like it, but that's the job. It's getting old. I've been doing this before you got here. 5 years now. They need to find somebody else. Joey, don't let this shit get to you. Look at the big picture. Or in our case right here, our small picture. You save lives, and that's a calling. You might question sometimes how you're saving the lives, but you are. I'll give you that. I might be saving lives, but some of the sick shit I have to listen to turns my stomach. It makes me sick. Sorry, Joey. It's better than being back downrange in Afghan land or someplace else, isn't it? If you say so. How about I meet you tomorrow at our regular spot, and for now, we need to flip the switch and get you inside. Get you singing and preaching some of that positive gospel stuff, Ron said with a forced smile and a change of attitude out of O'Malley as they headed inside. Sunday afternoon. Later in the day, Ron headed to work and made what had become a customary stop at Carolina Park, where sometimes he would meet up with friends for a chat or just to relax if they couldn't make it. Jack and Charlie were already at the park when Ron arrived. He got out of his vehicle and sat at a picnic table with them. "Damn, Ron, looking a lot better than when we saw you last Friday," Charlie commented. "Feeling a lot better, guys." They talked 20 minutes before Ron had to head to work. "Why don't you guys come over tonight and play some video games?" Early evening. "Hey, Ron," a female dispatcher called over the radio. "Yeah, go ahead." "I got a call from Cherokee Diner, someone asking for you to meet them there." "Who is it?" "The waitress said it was your friend, Rose Carolina," the dispatcher said sarcastically. "All right, thanks." "She said she'd watch for you and meet you in the parking lot." Ron knew Rose, not as a friend, but more by reputation or occasional interactions like when he saw her last Monday. The 60-something-year-old of native descent had the reputation of being the local witch doctor. What does she want this time? When he arrived at the diner, he parked. Rose walked toward him, and since it was a cold night, Ron asked her to hop in the car. "Hey, Rose, how you been?" "I guess a whole lot better than you've been," she answered with a quiet laugh. "I'm still above ground." "Yes, Ron, yes. But for how long?" "Do you know that old couple that was at the station last Monday?" "What old couple?" "You were standing right outside the window looking at them." "Was I?" she said with a smile. "Stop messing with me." "I'm not messing with you, Ron. I like you," she said with a foreshadowing quiet laugh. The conversation paused when Rose brought Ron's attention to a woman inside the restaurant. "There's that woman inside there. She's in the window there at the end booth. That young black woman. There's something about her. I got a bad feeling about her, Ron." "Bad feeling?" "Yes, bad feeling. She's not from here. She's from out of town, but she's been here for a few weeks. She has a girlfriend I've seen her with once in a while, and I'm telling you, I just get a bad omen from her. And you know I'm right. I told you about that Shanna Holcomb girl, and look what she ended up doing." "I appreciate it, Rose, but you know we can't do anything about a feeling." I know. I have to tell you, the last time I ignored a bad feeling, well, that's a story you're not ready to hear yet. But Ron, knowing or having the feeling doesn't mean you can't keep your guard up. You know I'm right. Just like I told you about that priest. I got a bad feeling about him, too. I guess there's still something off about him, but maybe in a good way. These feelings don't always have to be about bad things, if that makes any sense." "Makes sense, Rose. O'Malley's a good dude, but this girl you're talking about, now keep an eye out for her, okay?" "Ron, you and Billy and a handful of other people in this town are the only ones who pay any attention to me, and I appreciate that. I'll always look out for you and your families best I can," Rose told him in a somewhat eerie manner that made him feel uncomfortable. "But then again, Ron, I am the town witch doctor, right?" Rose said as she left the car, cynically laughing. Ron briefly laughed along, and when she was gone, thought, Damn, she didn't answer my question about the Holcombs. He looked at the woman in the restaurant. Jenny Johnson, again. Ron wasn't necessarily superstitious, but he did know that Rose was right about her feelings on more than one occasion. Given that Sundays were usually slow, Ron decided to wait in the parking lot. His patience paid off when he saw a black woman sit down across from Johnson. Ron didn't have a clear view of the woman. He did notice a few minutes earlier that a car had parked, and as he started to leave the parking lot, he did a license check. The license check came back, Keisha Jones. Ron was conflicted. Keisha, what are you doing? Keisha Jones. Keisha, 38, had been with the Cherokee County Sheriff's Department for 8 years. She was an Army brat, grew up at Fort Bragg in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Her mother and father were both paratroopers in the Army, and she followed in their footsteps. She joined the Army when she was 18, became a paratrooper in the military police, then a drill sergeant, and served 4 years in combat zones in Iraq and Afghanistan. Keisha was extremely patriotic and had a strong sense of esprit de corps. She was divorced and had a 14-year-old daughter and 17-year-old son. The diner. Keisha entered the restaurant and headed to the booth where Jenny was waiting. They made eye contact and smiled as Keisha sat down. Jenny reached across the table and held Keisha's hands. Been waiting a while. I thought you might be standing me up. Not at all, cuteness. I just had to get some things worked out with the kids before I left. Sometimes I think you're not the same woman when I see you out of that cop uniform. It's like you're a different woman. A beautiful woman. Very different. Thank you, I think. I've been thinking. What's this girl thinking? What do you think about? What if I got myself an apartment here? Keisha was taken aback by Jenny's suggestion because she was not looking for a long-term relationship. She didn't know exactly how to tell Jenny. I love what we have, but you need to put the brakes on. We've only known each other a couple of months and I've got my 2 kids. But hey, I love our time together. Let's just see how it goes. Oh no, that look. Keisha knew right away she had hurt Jenny's feelings and quickly came up with a way to maybe fix it. She hurriedly said to Jenny, "Let's get out of here. You want to go to the club?" She might be gay. After Ron got off from work, he went home. Kelly was already in bed. Jack, Charles, and Mark arrived, and they played video games, except for Mark. He didn't talk or play any video games. 2 hours later, Kelly asked from the bedroom, "Ron, who are you talking to?" "Nobody, just the video game. I'll be there in a minute," he answered as he and the others laughed quietly. "Time to go, guys." Ron went to the bedroom and got ready for bed. "I think Keisha might be gay," Ron told Kelly. Well, you guys affect us that way," Kelly teased. Yeah, but really, I saw her tonight at the diner with that reporter girl I told you about." "Oh yeah, she was on TV doing that story. I could see Keisha and her. She's cute, don't you think?" "Not answering that. That's one of those fill questions. I give an answer, and if I give the wrong answer, I'm done for, so no, not answering." "That's funny. I remember we loved watching Modern Family when Phil couldn't win no matter what answer he gave. Real funny. But it's okay, babe. I trust you." I haven't thought about it in a long time, but I kind of thought Anna might have been. "I never got that vibe about Anna, but I wonder sometimes about Laura. She's got the boyfriend now, but guess we'll see." "Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I do like that boy." As Ron tried to go to sleep, the memory of Anna troubled him as he drifted off. 4 years earlier, 1:35 a.m. A week before retiring from the Army at Fort Lewis, Washington, Ron was woken up by the ringing of his cell phone. "Yeah, hello? Hello, is this Ron Farmer?" Yeah, who's this?" Ron reluctantly answered while thinking he recognized the voice. "Ron, this is State Trooper Davis." "Daryl? Daryl Davis?" Ron recognized the voice. Daryl Davis had served under Ron. Daryl left the Army a few years ago and joined the Washington State Troopers. Hearing the voice, but also a voice of a state trooper, suddenly turned to distress for Ron as he recollected the phone call his wife Kelly had received about Anna. Daryl interrupted Ron's pause and quickly interjected. "It's not about your family, Ron. Can you come out and meet? I'm sure it'll be something you'll be interested in. That's all I can say for now." Daryl gave Ron a location on a lightly traveled state highway about 30 minutes away. Ron headed out in his pickup truck to meet Daryl. As Ron approached, he saw the emergency lights of Daryl's police SUV. Ron pulled up behind Daryl and noticed that there was another car in front. Ron got out of his car and approached Daryl. They shook hands and engaged in a minute of small talk before getting to the point of the meeting. "Ron, walk up with me and see who I have in the back seat," Daryl instructed. They walked to the SUV. "What's this about?" "So, Ron, you know this person, don't you?" The sight of 53-year-old Chelsea Williams shocked Ron. "What the?" "That's her, right?" The woman in the SUV became belligerent when she saw Ron. The first time Ron saw Williams was at a pretrial hearing for a DUI charge and manslaughter charge for the death of Anna. His emotions got the best of him as he started beating on the car and yelling at Williams. He flung open the door and attempted to grab her. Daryl stopped him and pulled him to the side and tried to calm Ron down. "Take a quick walk up to her car, take a look inside the trunk, and come back and tell me what you see." Ron's adrenaline was pumping. He felt out of control, but he did as Daryl asked and looked at Williams' car. "What did you see?" Daryl asked. Ron didn't answer as he angrily paced. The back seat, front seat, and trunk were filled with bags and personal belongings. It was apparent that Williams was skipping town before her trial. "I could tell by your reaction, Ron, you know exactly what she was planning to do." "Yeah," Ron answered as he looked through the window at Williams, who had stopped her belligerence. Ron and Daryl walked to the back of the car to talk. Ron listened to Daryl as he made a proposal that at first shocked Ron, but the more he thought about it, the more he thought about going through with it. They finished talking, and Ron walked up to Daryl's cruiser and opened the back door. "Miss Williams." Williams interrupted Ron. I'm sorry, Mr. Farmer. I'm sorry about your daughter. As God is my witness, and I've told everybody, she drove into me. I wasn't drunk. I had one glass of wine earlier. I barely hit the blood alcohol limit. My lawyer told me that the girl's blood alcohol was a lot higher than mine. That poor girl. I'm sorry, I really am." Williams pleaded and continued to ramble as she cried. "Sure you are." Listening to Williams made Ron more furious. "Tell me something. Are you drunk now? I mean, that's why the trooper pulled you over, isn't it? Are you drunk now?" Williams continued to cry and didn't answer. "Tell you what we're going to do. You've got to be at trial Monday, so you already got enough going on. The trooper said he'll let me drive you home. You can't drive, so I'll take you home. Maybe I'll change my mind about you." "That's your option, Miss Williams. I'm still going to impound your car, but at least tonight you get a break," Trooper Davis told Williams. Williams nodded in agreement to go with Ron. Ron abruptly woke up and sat up in bed. "You all right? Another dream?" Kelly asked. This was different. I guess when we talked about Anna earlier, it just brought this up. Remember back at Lewis, that night Daryl called me about that woman? "Yeah?" Kelly answered, her tone changing. "I'm sorry. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing that night." "You can't do this. You 100% did the right thing. You gotta stop going back, feeling guilty about things, please?" Kelly reassured Ron sincerely. "I know." The next day, Monday. Ron headed into work and planned to meet Father O'Malley, but first he wanted to talk with Keisha and arranged to meet her at the mini-mart parking lot. I know a secret, Ron teasingly told Keisha. Keisha played along with the teasing. Ron was troubled on how to approach the subject of Jenny Johnson, but after a minute he got to the point. "Keisha, last night I was over at the Cherokee Diner parking lot." That was all Ron had to say. Keisha's face turned from smiling to serious and nervous. Look, Ron. Ron didn't let her finish. Hey, it's okay. I don't care, really. Ron told her with an approving smile. Blew my mind seeing you with her, and I didn't know what to say because if you're dating her, that's fine. That's great. What I wanted to tell you is that she has a 888 surveillance warrant on her. A what? Judging from your reaction, you don't know what a 888 is. No, I don't know what some mother effing 888 movie line is. It's Homeland Security's subsection, specifically created to deal with Valkyrie. Sure, I can see why they need that, but what's it got to do with her? Come on, Keisha, you know why. But it won't come to anything because she's not going to find out anyway. Phillips last week started the warrant as soon as she made that story. I thought you'd like to know. Damn it, Ron, I appreciate it, but she's a good girl. She's not trying to dig up something about Valkyrie or anything. She's doing her serial killer story. Keisha said as she calmed down. They're just being careful. You remember a couple of years ago, that one reporter? That guy almost caused a lot of problems. I don't even want to remember that. Another bad memory. But thanks for looking out for me. I appreciate it. Ron and Keisha chatted for another 10 minutes before Ron left to meet with Father O'Malley. The confessional. Ron went to the church as he had done on a regular basis to meet with O'Malley in the confessional box. Bless me, Joey, for I have sinned, Ron said with levity. 10 minutes later, Ron and O'Malley parted ways and Ron headed back to his cruiser. Man, at least it wasn't some pedophile. Ron headed back to the station to update Ken. I met with O'Malley this morning and he got some information last night from a woman whose husband works in finance and she thinks he's stealing. O'Malley said she seemed sincere and thought he was stealing tens of thousands. What's this guy's name? Let's get this over to our detectives. Jeremiah Gordon, but what? Ken, unfortunately, this guy works for us. What? He works finance out at Valkyrie. You gotta be shitting me. Damn it! Ken took a minute to calm down and then he called Kilcullen. Ken got off the phone and told Ron to get a hold of Tom and for both of them to go out to Valkyrie. The accountant. Ron and Tom parked in front of the Valkyrie substation and walked in. Ron, what's this one about? Some accountant decided he was going to steal a bunch of money. Here to take out the trash? Probably. By all appearances, the layout of the substation was similar to most law enforcement stations. The lobby had a public counter, which had a wall made of ballistic-resistant material to include a window with no openings. Communication was made through a microphone. Above the window was the Sheriff's Department logo and the words Cherokee County Sheriff's Substation. There was a doorway to gain access to the restricted area. Ron and Tom entered the restricted area and walked to another door that required key code access. They entered the door, which led to another lobby. The lobby had a similar setup with a ballistic wall and glass, and above the glass on the left side was a Department of Defense logo, and on the right side, a U.S. Special Operations Command logo. Between the two logos in the center was written, Welcome to Valkyrie. There were 4 Department of Defense, DOD, police officers behind the glass. Ron and Tom were buzzed in. They all knew each other and exchanged greetings as they passed through the area and proceeded down a hallway. They reached their destination, a waiting area for Kilcullen's office. They announced their arrival to a staff sergeant dressed in military fatigues sitting at a desk. You can go in, the staff sergeant told them. They entered the office and Lieutenant General Dennis Kilcullen got up from his desk and greeted them, giving each of them what had become a routine fist bump. Kilcullen was a stocky 5'10" man. His military fatigues displayed various qualifications to include Special Forces and Ranger. Sir, congratulations on that 3rd star, Ron said happily, and Tom added his congratulations. They talked for about 5 minutes, and a knock sounded on the door. How you guys been? Command Sergeant Major Mitch Conway asked with a smile as he entered. They made conversation, catching up for a couple of minutes until a civilian, Kathy Mitchell, entered the room. "Quiet, everyone. Intel just entered the room," Tom said mysteriously, which generated laughter and smiles. "So, Kathy, tell me again which department you work for?" Tom inquired. "Tom, you ask me that every time," she answered, going along with the implied inside joke that she was really CIA. "All right, everyone. I've got a meeting in about 10 minutes, so let's get this over with," Konkol said. "I've only had like 45 minutes, but yes, there's no doubt he has definitely been skimming money for about the last 4 years, to the tune of at least $100,000, Mitchell informed them. "I'm not trying to justify what he did, but I don't guess there is someone dying of cancer or something, paying hospital bills, or any reason that we could say, oh, he had a good reason?" Konkol asked. "I wish, but no, pure greed," Mitchell answered. No one said anything for a few seconds as somberness filled the room. "Unless somebody has a good reason or an idea why we don't follow protocol on this, I hate to say it, but I think we know what has to be done here," Konkol stated. The meeting ended. When Ron and Tom headed out to find Jeremiah Gordon's office, Mitchell followed. They found Gordon's office, knocked on the door, and entered. "Mr. Gordon, Sheriff Deputy Farmer, and this is Deputy Holt, and I think you know Miss Mitchell," Ron introduced. Ron watched Gordon and got the impression he knew why they were there. Gordon didn't say anything and stood up from his chair. "Jeremiah, you can make this a little easier for me if you can give me a list of your passwords," Mitchell said. "Under the keyboard, there's a key in the desk drawer for a lockbox I keep over there," Gordon said cooperatively. "Thank you, Jeremiah." Ron and Tom searched Gordon, placed him in handcuffs, walked him out of the office to the substation, and placed him in an interview room. They stepped out of the interview room where they kept an eye on Gordon through a window. Ron's phone rang. "Yes, Mitchell." He listened for a minute and then hung up. "We got about an hour before the plane will be here," Ron told Tom, and then he added, "Mitchell did us a favor. We don't have to go on this one." "That's odd, but hey, good news. I bet that won't happen again and we'll go on the next one." "Hopefully there won't be a next one." Tom nodded and opened the door to the interview room. "Hey, Jeremiah, what size shoes do you wear?" Gordon was reluctant to answer, but he finally did. Tom closed the door and walked over to an oversized locker and grabbed a pair of size 10 sneakers and a bag that had a yellow prison-type jumpsuit in it. Ron and Tom went back to the interview room with Gordon, instructing him to strip and put the jumpsuit and sneakers on. As the time got close for him to leave, they put leg irons, belly chain, and handcuffs on Gordon and walked him out of the room. As they left the back of the building, Konkol stopped them. "I just need a minute," he told Ron and Tom. "Gordon, I just need to know something. You know how important our mission is, and I need to know why. Why did you do it?" Konkol asked passionately, almost in tears. Gordon hesitated for a moment and looked at Konkol. "Why? Because I could. I got here, 4 years ago? This place has been here for 15 years or so, and the woman I took over from was doing it and had gotten away with it. Sam Osgood, Samantha? She didn't tell me she was doing it, but I figured it out after my first audit. It was so easy. I don't know how you guys figured it out, but yeah, because I could." "You didn't think to tell anybody about her?" Konkol asked. It just didn't seem worth the trouble to take it any further. She had been doing that since the day she got here, and she had been here 10 years. I'll tell you, knowing what's going to happen to me, I don't really care about her, so yeah, she did it for 10 years for at least $1 million or more." Konkol was distraught. 2 soldiers approached from the awaiting aircraft. They exchanged salutes with Konkol. "Gordon, one of the soldiers asked. Yes, he's all yours, Tom answered. They watched as Gordon was walked to the aircraft. After Gordon boarded the plane, Ron and Tom turned to an emotional Kilcullen. All right, guys, I guess it's back to work. I'll talk with Kathy about this Samantha woman and see where we can go from here. Can you take care of Gordon's wife? Yes, sir. We'll walk back in with you anyway. We got to get Gordon's keys and the rest of his stuff, Ron answered. Ron and Tom got Gordon's things and headed back to the station to update Ken. Ron and Tom coordinated arrangements concerning Gordon, and Ron made a point to stay at the station waiting for what they would expect to be a call from Gordon's wife. The call came into dispatch at 9:30 p.m. Gordon's wife, Lisa, reported that her husband was missing. Ron and Tom went to Gordon's house, interviewed Lisa, and reassured her that they would look for her husband and be back in touch. They headed back to their vehicles. How about we come back in the morning around 10 and give her the news? Sounds good, but maybe I shouldn't come along, Tom replied. Why not? Kind of awkward. About 3 months ago, we hooked up. What? Seemed like she didn't even recognize me, but it was a one-time thing. Maybe she didn't, or she's just so upset tonight. She didn't notice. Well, why take a chance tomorrow? Damn, Tom. I know, but it really was one time, and it wasn't even me, and I know that sounds cliche, but she started it. Come on, Tom, how could she not remember you? Aren't you the Black Stallion? Ron joked. Or is it that Black Stallion thing just an urban legend? Come on, man. Don't make me question my manhood, Tom answered. I also think she's probably racist. She said some weird stuff. She thought it was funny to use the N-word. Really strange. But it is weird. I know, isn't it? Not that. You're probably not the only one, and if she's running around, maybe he was too. It just doesn't seem that she'd be so upset about her husband being a few hours late getting home. Anyway, we need to finish up with this car and stuff. Ron got in his cruiser and headed back to the station. He thought it was odd that she felt compelled to tell the priest about her suspicions, but not her infidelities or if O'Malley left information out. On his way back to the station, he thought about the what-ifs, why or why nots. The next morning, Ron and Billy went to Lisa Gordon's house. Billy gave her the bad news that her husband was killed in a car accident. Ron watched Lisa's reaction as she cried and embraced Billy, a reaction that does on occasion happen, but Ron was already suspicious and thought it was odd. They finished up and left. Walking out to their cruisers, Ron told Billy about his suspicions that something was off. I think your suspicions are spot on, Ron. As soon as she gave me the flirtatious cry, I knew something was up. Flirtatious cry? There's the real someone died type of cry, but then there's what I call the flirtatious cry. They're crying, acting, but at the same time they're looking for that sympathy. Or they're guilty of something. Ron told Billy he was going to talk with O'Malley and Mitchell. Ron called O'Malley to be sure he was at his office and went to see him. So, Joey, got a question about Lisa Gordon. Oh, what? Besides her husband, did she tell you anything else? No, just standard confession stuff. I guess what I'm getting at is if she's 100% Catholic and she told you all about her husband, would she tell you about anything else she did that she considered to be a sin? Say infidelity? Ron noticed O'Malley deliberately pause. There it is. Let me think about this, Lisa. Joey, come on. Okay. I had a thing with her every once in a while. Not a lot, just, every so often. What the hell? Did you think this might have been something you should have told me? I only asked because turns out you're not the only one. Really? Yes, really. Thinking about it now, it makes sense. When she first came on to me, she was telling me she thought she was a nympho. Stupid me. I fell for it. Duh. She told you she was a nympho and that wasn't a red flag to stay away? Come on, Joey. I know, stupid. Did she tell you about anyone else she had been with? No? Well, yeah, but no names. Stupid. She started out by telling me how she did stuff. Of course, it was on purpose, and I fell for it. Do you trust her? What I mean is, do you think she will say anything about you and her? Ron waited for an answer. I don't know, but you know, she's not even Catholic. She's Baptist. Ron left the meeting and went to Valkyrie to meet with Mitchell to update her. More developments. Wednesday afternoon. Ron was called into Ken's office for a meeting. When he arrived, Billy was there, and Phillips and Mitchell showed up a few minutes later, and then Tom. Mitchell started a briefing and told them she had been working with Special Agent Phillips on 3 separate investigations, one on Jeremiah Gordon, one on Samantha Osgood, and the third one on Lisa Gordon. His wife? Ken asked. Yes, between what we've been digging up and what the FBI's Financial Fraud Division has been able to pull up, we're not sure, but it looks like Miss Lisa may have figured out what her husband was doing and who he was really working for, Mitchell added. Phillips provided more information, including how Lisa had $1 million life insurance policy on her husband and numerous deposits in bank accounts over the previous 3 months, adding up to over $500,000. Phillips also told them that she already filed the insurance claim. Phillips followed up with, This Samantha Osgood was in government service for 12 years before she transferred to Valkyrie. 10 years at Valkyrie and then retired, drawing a government pension. During those 10 years, she skimmed over $1 million. But here's the kicker. Before she left, she figured out a way to keep skimming, up to this very week. Increments between $800 and $1,200 a week, paying out invoices to fake companies, resulting in perpetual direct deposits to her. Phillips said lightheartedly. How can that even happen? Ron asked. It's the government for one. Everyone laughed. As for Miss Samantha, we're not going to touch anything yet until after Thanksgiving and more likely after New Year's, and then we'll be paying her a visit, Mitchell said. The meeting ended with everyone joking about the latest developments. As they were about to leave, Phillips made a statement. You know we can't wait on Lisa Gordon. I'm leaving. You do what you do, Mitchell said as she started to walk out. Ron spoke up. Before you leave, one thing with Lisa Gordon doesn't make sense. She's been screwing around with O'Malley for months, and when her husband's a few hours late, she calls to report him missing. It's not right. You may need to look closer at her and O'Malley, too. I'm good friends with him, but something's not right. Mitchell and Phillips looked at each other and gave an agreeing nod. Definitely something we need to look into, Mitchell said. Ken looked at Ron and Tom with a quirky smile. You need to decide which one of you is going to pick up Mrs. Gordon and take her, you know where, and read Keisha in on this to go with you. Ron looked at Tom with a smile. Neither of them wanted to go, and they played rock, paper, scissors to decide who would go. Ron won, but then they thought it would end up being an issue if Tom went. Ron would go. They noticed Billy comically sneaking toward the front door, opening it and looking outside. No black cats, Ron. Safe to go. Laughter broke out. Lisa Gordon. Lisa Gordon, 29, from Sacramento, California, met her husband Jeremiah in college at UCLA. Lisa's career aspirations fell short as she found herself working in various customer service jobs until Jeremiah landed an accounting job with the government, which is how Lisa found herself in Farmerville. Lisa found employment in the nearby town working customer service for an insurance company. Within a year, Lisa grew tired of the rural Missouri town. Boredom led to opportunity as Lisa found a way to creatively acquire money through her insurance work. One day, Lisa went to the bank to deposit several checks. Joyce, the bank manager, greeted her. Hi, Joyce. I need to deposit these checks into our checking. Sure. Which account? Which account? What? Lisa didn't answer right away. She thought about the question and thought she would play dumb. I don't know which one. Where are we at with them? Let me show you, Joyce said as she turned the monitor to an angle where Lisa could see. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you've got this one that you use regularly, and then you've got these other two that you know you have substantial amounts in. I'd say just put them into your regular checking. Lisa studied the monitor as Joyce pointed out her balances. She maintained her composure as she noticed that the regular account had a few thousand, but the other two accounts had balances of over $500,000 and $200,000. That little shithead. I put them in our regular, and did you get the signature cards for the other accounts? Joyce made the deposits and did a quick check for the signature cards and told Lisa that she had them on file and they were signed electronically. As Lisa walked to her car, it didn't take much to figure out that her husband was hiding money from her and had to be doing something illegal to come up with that kind of money. During the next few weeks, Lisa thought about her options on what to do. She purchased a GPS tracking device that she placed in his car and gained online access to all the bank accounts and figured out ways to monitor her husband. On the nights that her husband said he had to work late, which was frequent, she would follow him and discovered that he was cheating on her. Her solution to the cheating was not to confront him, just ignore it, and him, as much as she could without drawing attention. Lisa developed an expanded sexual appetite, although since college, her sexual desires were frequent, 3 to 5 times a week with her husband, and when he didn't satisfy her, she took care of the urges herself. A new habit of frequent sexual encounters developed quickly. Her sexual activity was risky, sometimes in cars and other times at her home while Jeremiah was at work. Lisa's encounters. 8 months ago in the afternoon, Lisa was in her bed with a man whom she didn't even know his name. Hey Lisa, whose car's that outside? Damn it, Jerry. Lisa jumped out of bed and told her friend to stay and stormed out of the bedroom naked and walked into the living room. Lisa took pleasure in the expression on Jeremiah's face. That's priceless. He looked shocked, but not angry, and didn't say anything for a few seconds before asking, Does this mean we're done? That question infuriated Lisa. Stealing and hiding money from her was one thing, but he just caught her cheating, and it didn't seem he cared. No, we're not done. I know what you've been doing. Doing what? I haven't done anything. You can't be serious. You've been cheating on me for ages and don't even start saying no, there's nothing going on or all that garbage. I saw you with more than one, and not just that, you've been hiding money from me and you figured a way to steal money from the government. I don't know how, I don't care, I just want a part of it. Oh my God, if he could see the look on his face. One more thing, if you're going to come home early, you call and let me know first. Lisa made a deal with Jeremiah that he could keep stealing, but she was going to start siphoning money out of their accounts into her own accounts. Under the threat of being turned in by Lisa, Jeremiah agreed to the arrangement and continued his scheme while Lisa opened up new bank accounts and started making deposits under a home business setup. Driving home one afternoon, a month later, about a block from her home, Lisa saw police lights in her rearview mirror. Slightly panicked because she had had 2 drinks at lunch with one of her friends as she was pulling to the side of the road, she thought of what she could do. Her thought was to flirt, quickly remove her bra and unbutton a few of her top buttons to slightly reveal her breasts. In the mirror, she watched Deputy Tom Holt approach. He introduced himself and asked her for her license and registration. She complied while flirting, but quickly held back her license. Deputy, what if I told you I left my license at my house just up the block and asked you to come with me to get it? Deputy Holt seemed interested and smiled. So, Deputy, is it true what they say about black guys? There's one way to find out. Holt blurted out but quickly retracted. I'm sorry, I was just joking. I'm not, Lisa told Holt with a flirtatious smile as she fanned her blouse. A week later, Lisa attended a charity event where she struck up a conversation with Father Joseph O'Malley, a flirtatious conversation. The following Saturday evening, Lisa visited O'Malley's church to go to confession. She made a point to be the last one so that no one else would be waiting. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." She watched through the dark mesh window for O'Malley's reaction, curious if he would recognize her voice. She told O'Malley it was her first confession in years and listed some minor sins, then added adultery. Although the confession booth was dark, she could see O'Malley's face in the darkness. He did not press her for any explanations about the adultery, although she thought he was curious. She found that the darkness of the confessional and the thought of what was said in that little room excited her. The following Saturday, she went back to confession and again made sure that she was the last one. During this confession, she wanted to see how far she could go. She told O'Malley about her obsession with sex and went into explicit detail, watching for O'Malley's reaction as she detailed about how she loved performing oral sex. Lisa increased her visits to confession to 3 times a week, providing O'Malley with her verbal porn confessions, which she believed he enjoyed listening to, so much so she thought he started masturbating during the confessions. The confessions led to Lisa paying a visit to O'Malley's office, and from there, regular encounters. Wednesday afternoon. Lisa was packing bags. A knock on the door got her attention. As she walked to the living room, she called out, "Who is it?" "Mrs. Gordon, it's Deputy Farmer." What does he want? But she didn't think much of it and answered the door. "Afternoon, Mrs. Gordon," Ron said. "Mrs. Gordon, I'm Deputy Jones. Good afternoon." Lisa invited them in, and as soon as they were inside the door, she felt them grabbing her arms and putting handcuffs on her. "God, what are they doing?" Lisa argued, questioning what they were doing and falling into a full panic. They told her she was being arrested for embezzlement. They read her rights, but she didn't pay attention as her mind was spinning in disbelief. She quickly threw her husband under the bus, telling them how he was the one stealing from the government. "You need to stop talking, Mrs. Gordon, until you get a lawyer," Jones told her. Farmer and Jones escorted her out of the house. As they walked to a police cruiser, several other police vehicles and a mixture of deputies and FBI agents were waiting outside. Farmer and Jones took Lisa to the sheriff's substation, where they took her booking picture, fingerprints, and then put her in an interview room. Lisa's mind raced, trying to think of ways to get out of this situation. She rationalized that telling on her husband might help save her. 10 minutes after sitting in the room, Deputy Jones opened the door. "Mrs. Gordon, what size shoes do you wear?" "What?" "Shoes. What size shoes do you wear?" "That's a weird question." Lisa answered the question, and a few minutes later, Deputies Farmer and Jones entered the room with sneakers and a bag with a prison jumpsuit. They instructed her to strip down and put the jumpsuit on. Lisa argued and was resistant to follow the instructions until Jones very sternly instructed her to do what she was told. "Is she yelling at me?" She was given something to eat, allowed to use the bathroom, and 2 hours later, Deputies Farmer and Jones put ankle irons, belly chains, and handcuffs on her. They walked her out to the lobby and put a black bag over her head. Lisa panicked and started to fight and yell as she was pushed down to the floor and heard Jones yelling at her and felt a hand on her throat. "You need to calm down and cooperate. You're leaving here one way or another. You can walk, or we'll give you a shot and carry you out. Now be quiet. Let's stand up and walk out," Jones told her authoritatively. Lisa cooperated and had no idea where she was being taken or why the bag was over her head. Walking through a doorway, she felt cold air and knew they were outside. They walked slowly for about 5 minutes until they came to a stop. She heard Farmer and Jones talking to 2 other male voices, then Jones instructed her, "Step up. You're going to take a big step up." Lisa did as she was told. She was placed in a seat and felt a seatbelt strapped on her. She could not see but knew she was on an airplane, but not a commercial airplane because this one sounded different. She eventually fell asleep and was awoken by a shake on her shoulder as the airplane landed. She figured she was on a cargo airplane when she heard the ramp open and felt warm air. As she was taken off the aircraft, she smelled the distinct ocean air. Where the hell are we? Within an hour, her question would be answered, or rather, she would find out where she was not. She heard Farmer and Jones talking to a male and female who they addressed as sergeants. "Good luck to you, Mrs. Gordon," Jones told her. She heard Farmer and Jones leave, and as soon as they did, the female voice instructed her to start walking. A minute later, Lisa thought they were in another room. The black bag was removed from her head. She had no idea, not a clue where she was. No windows, just a table and chair. "Where are we?" "Shut up. Just be quiet until you're told you can speak," the female military sergeant told her. Lisa was processed, stripped, showered, and given new clothes. The black bag was put over her head again. She was escorted down a hallway, heard a door open, and was led into a room. The female sergeant told her, "When you hear the door close, you can take the bag off, and there's a call button on the wall if you need anything." Lisa heard the door close and slowly removed the hood, adjusted her eyes as she looked around, and then saw a man sitting at a table. "What?" Her husband met her gaze and started to laugh. To be continued. Farmerville Episode 4, Conspiracies, Nightmares, and Pig Farms. Oh my. I hope you enjoyed Farmerville, the Journalist and the Accountant's Wife, as written by Marty Martin and performed by Paul J. McSorley. Marty Martin's current writing interest is focused on mysteries and thrillers with his Farmerville series. As a grandparent, he also has an award-winning children's book series based on his experiences with his grandchildren, Adventures with Pop Pop. You can find the print version of tonight's terrifying tale on Amazon, listed by the same name. On to the shows. Longtime resident Otis Gyrie has his very own show here on our network, Scary Stories Told in the Dark, which you can hear every Sunday night. We also have Eric Peabody's Horror Hill, a podcast dedicated to some of our deeper and darker tales. We hope you check him out. And Drew Blood's Dark Tales airs Fridays, featuring some southern down-home horror. And don't forget to check out the Fear from the Heartland archives, featuring more than 120 episodes. Well, friends, our weekly descent into the depths has just about come to a close. But before we go, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for joining us tonight, and remind you to take a moment to stop by our iTunes page and leave Chilling Tales for Dark Nights a 5-star review and a kind word. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you haven't already. And of course, subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can find an archive of our work going back to 2012. And consider signing up as a patron at our website, chillingtalesfordarknights.com, to show your support and get all of our content ad-free. I'm your host of the evening, Paul J. McSorley, and it's been a pleasure. Tune in again next week when we once again turn off the lights and turn on the dark. Sweet dreams, listener. Sweet dreams.
Chilling Tales for Dark Nights.
This episode of Chilling Tales for Dark Nights is brought to you by Fume. Habits get a bad rap, don't they? Sure, there's no shortage of bad ones, but there are good ones too. Things like exercise, proper diet, and flavored air, for example. Our friends at Fume have seized on that last one there and pioneered the ultimate good habit. With no harmful chemicals, no electronics, no nicotine, and no guilt. Fume has invented an award-winning, innovative device that allows you to indulge that oral fixation without all the bad inherent in those other habits. It's earned them not only hundreds of thousands of happy customers, but the backing of doctors in the U.S. No surprise there, my doctor prefers air to chemicals too. I've already shaken the habit, but I wish I had had my fume device back then. I love this thing. I recommend the crisp mint and orange vanilla flavors. Those are my personal favorites. Beside that, it's a really nicely built device with all these moving parts for fidgeting, which is great for relieving stress. You'll see right away why fume is designed to be a habit, a good habit, one you can lean on and feel good about. Paul J. McSorley approved. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code CHILLING to get a free gift with your journey pack. Head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use code CHILLING to get a free gift with your order today. Thanks for your support and for supporting our valuable sponsors.